Koppel, host of the Time for Coffee podcast, where you get first-hand career advice into the jobs and industries that interest you the most. And before we start today's show, I have a quick favor to ask you. If you haven't already, I'd be incredibly grateful if you give us a rating and a review on iTunes. And if you're like me, you need to do it now because you'll forget later and because it's the best way to help others who may be in search of career advice to find this free resource. So press pause if you haven't done it and do it right now. I'll wait. Thanks so much and enjoy today's show. Hey there, Java Junkies. Welcome to another K-Cup mini episode of Time for Coffee. By the way, K-Cups come in 3 sizes, single, double, and triple shots, or roughly 1 minute, 5 minutes, or 10 minutes in length. So if you don't have time to throw back an entire caffeinated career conversation, these K-Cup mini episodes of T4C can give you a quick caffeinated fix, whether you're on the go or you only have a few minutes to binge. So grab your mug and take a chug, because it's time for a caffeinated career double shot K-Cup with my guest, Patrick McGinnis. Patrick, if one of our young listeners were interested in breaking into the VC world, did not have a background in finance, what would you recommend they do? Where would you recommend they go to get their foot in the door?
Well, there's a lot of great things that you can do. Number one is venture capital isn't typically something people do right out of college. They can do. It's not unprecedented, but most of the roles in venture capital are more people that are, sort of have already worked for a decade or so. So let's just say that. But there are some roles. So number one, I think, is when you're raising money for a company, there's an old saying in the world of venture capital, which is when you ask for money, you get advice. When you ask for advice, you get money. So number one is, and I get pitches all the time from people on LinkedIn and email like, hello, my name is XYZ. Here's my CV. Please hire me. And I'm like, I don't know you. I mean, I appreciate the effort, but like, I don't know you and I'm busy. And so like, I don't have the time for this right now. When people ask for advice, especially when people like listen to my podcast and then send me like a DM on Instagram or LinkedIn and say, hey, I listened to your episode about this. Really interesting. I'd love to know, do you have any advice for somebody? Like, I'm much more willing and interested. And like, I had a guy I met a couple of years ago who I ended up hiring to work with me. So I would say coming in a humble way and just saying, I'm looking to learn. Would you be willing to share an insight with me is very important. Number two is you can apply to these jobs, of course, but they're very competitive. But, you just want to just get your resume out there.
What are the jobs? So being
an analyst at a venture capital firm.
Okay, being an analyst.
But there just aren't many. It's really hard. And they typically only recruit from a few places. That's kind of the nature of the industry. So if you're not at Wharton or at, Columbia or something or Stanford, that's okay. Another thing is to look in geographies where there's less competition.
For example?
Kansas City. One of my friends is a venture capitalist in Kansas City.
Love it. And he's there because
he was there because he was in New York City and he said, there's too much competition here. I want to be an investor somewhere where there isn't as much competition. And so we're starting to see that venture capital is not just in Silicon Valley and New York and Boston now. It's going all over the place. And so you could find a VC firm in Minneapolis and there's just less competition there. And so it's a great place.
So is there a website or a listserv that people could go on to find some of these off the beaten track firms?
I would go to DealBook or Crunchbase. Those are 2 websites. Dealbook.co, you can search by location for VC funds. That's a really good way to do it. There's so many, that's the thing. And so it's like, it's unlike a lot of industries. Like if you want to be a consultant, there's like these consulting firms and they have offices in every city. And so you just sort of, VC is like these small firms with 8 to 10 people. So it's on you to do the analysis and to dig up the names and cold call and email and reach out and network and all that sort of stuff.
Got it. And if you want to be a VC, these are skills you better have, right?
That's right.
Thanks for tuning in to this K-Cup mini episode of Time for Coffee. If you want to listen to our entire caffeinated career conversation, please check out the show notes for this episode. Thanks so much for listening to this latest episode of T4C. And if you're interested in learning more about my coaching services for confused college students and recent grads, feel free to check out the Time for Coffee website under the coaching tab at time4coffee.org or text me at 202-236-5712. That's 202-236-5712.